So when I entered the Netherlands 2 weeks ago, I went to a bookstore to check if there was anything I was forgetting in our list, which was already getting pretty big. And I found this little book on the counter of the bookstore, which is called CRISISKOKEN by the author Mara Grimm. And it immediately sort of touched me because by its simplicity, by its honesty, by its directness, by its simple binding, by its friendly paper. And so I got in touch with Mara and got her to share with us today this journey of making this book, which is a COVID book. And it's a fantastic illustration for whoever wants to express and make books, that you should just do it. Mara, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I was going to talk about this book that we made incredibly quickly during the first lockdown. And it actually came about because I was stuck in Amsterdam and actually working on another book in Paris, where I partly live. But because of the lockdown, I was unable to travel. So I figured I'd do something else with my time. And I actually didn't think about a book yet. I started a small blog with low budget recipes. A long time ago, I graduated from the University of Amsterdam on cookbooks that were published during the First and the Second World War. And ever since, I've been collecting low budget recipes. And I thought maybe this was a good time to share them and do something with them. So as you can see, I have a very poor feeling for the internet. So constructed a very simple website to share these recipes. And I have a lot of friends that were suddenly out of work, that were musicians or working in a theater, and they all of a sudden had saw their income decrease, and at the same time people started cooking. So I thought this is a perfect timing. And next to my own recipes, I asked a lot of chefs to share theirs, which was actually great timing, because for the first time in their lives, they actually had time to create new recipes, because they were all stuck at home since the restaurants were closed. So I started it slowly, announced it on Instagram, and then it really took off with this meatball that was made by 3 Michelin star chef Jonny Boer of Restaurant de Liberijen in Zwolle. And all of a sudden, everybody started making his meatballs, and the website was going mad, and people were asking for more and more recipes. So we asked more and more chefs. This is semolina pudding. It's a very low budget pudding that was created by Kees Holtkamp, who is a pâtissier in Amsterdam. And same thing as with the meatballs. All of a sudden, everybody started to make them, share their pictures on Instagram. So it became a whole community of crisis cooking. So we were, speeding up a little and doing sometimes 2 recipes a day just for the fun, shooting them at our balcony at home with daylight, nothing fancy. And then we thought, okay, if everybody likes the recipe so much, let's see if we can make a book out of it. And we announced it on Instagram and opened a pre-sale for the book. And I think without even making the first page, we already sold 1,000 copies in the first week. So here we were making a book with absolutely nothing. I phoned one publisher who wasn't interested and said it was not a commercially interesting project. So I decided to do it myself, which actually turned out to be much more fun, because we got to break with all the rules of publishing. We had no sort of budget for cover design, for backgrounds, for styling. So And we're very used to work with a whole team of stylists and chefs, and when we're making other books. So this was the first time we were doing it with absolutely nothing. So we went on the street, that's me, collecting cardboards to use as backgrounds for the photography. As you can see here, this is a recipe by Michelin-starred chef Sergio Herman, and he has Indonesian roots. He made a recipe of nasi goreng, which is a breakfast recipe actually made with leftover rice from the night before. And this is my partner, who is the photographer of the book, stuck between all the cardboards in a balcony. So this is how the pictures turned out to be, but we wanted more than cardboards. So we were looking for other materials. This is actually my son enjoying everything because we were homeschooling at the same time. We also decided to use newspapers that were published during COVID as background. So here you can see a beautiful spread in Het Parool of a completely empty dumb square that we used as a background for this great soup by Joris Beidendijk, chef of the Rijksmuseum. This is actually a picture I was not sure if we could use because it is a spread also in a Parool of an intensive care. So I really, wasn't sure if we should use it, if it was maybe too harsh, but graphically I found it so beautiful that we decided to use it anyway. Here in the background you could see the two Vogues, Italian Vogues, that had completely white covers. They were published, I think, in May as a tribute to all the medical staff in Italy. So then we were looking for a printer as well. And we thought to keep it local, and we found this printer around the corner. Raddraaier. They actually originated in the squat scene a long time ago. They're still, they're much older now, it's still punks though. And great help, have a lot of smart ideas about, helping out with publishing a book on a low budget. They're very used to print theater announcements, program books, and they had a lot less work because of the crisis. So they had time to help us think and help us look for, leftover papers and stuff like that. So they were really, really great help. And also it was actually felt very nice to publish a book just around the corner, because I'm very used to, having sent your manuscript away to China and then wait 3 weeks and then just wait and see how it turns out. And now all of a sudden we could, stand next to the press and see how it came about. And that made much more sense, actually. I think I will never change that again, because in food, we talk a lot about sustainability and how important it is to work with local produce. And it's very funny to see all these books focusing on, local carrots, but being printed in Italy. So I think there's definitely time to change that. And as you can see, we were just, in the binding process was also basically a 20-minute drive from our house. So we could see, this is printing still, you could see how it came about. And so the process of making that book was actually pretty quick. And we decided I think, it's 3 months, March till June. We decided to print a stamp in all of the books as to emphasize the fact that it is a souvenir of the lockdown. And now we've sold 16,000 copies, and we've raised with that 40,000 euros for the food banks. And actually right now our book is in a Stedelijk Museum because it had an award for Best Dutch Book Design. which is really funny because we started out with absolutely nothing, no budget. The cover you see, I drew it myself because there was no money for cover design. Yeah, I think it's a great surprise to see it in a museum. It's also a great surprise to speak here because I think it's the simplest book I've ever made. Yet at the same time, it's the book I'm most proud of, and I've definitely learned lots of lessons from it. So that you absolutely don't need, just as for good food, you don't need caviar, you don't need lobster. The same thing goes for books. You don't need the best, you don't need a full equipped studio. You don't need a team of stylists or 50 shades of tablecloths to, choose how you're going to style your picture. You don't need a lot of china. You can just, cook the food, take a picture and print it. So I think there's definitely a lesson in that. Also, it opened my eyes in, what you can do with self-publishing, because normally, at least in Holland, I think it's different in every country, but in Holland, usually cookbook authors, they just get 10% royalties from the publisher. So I've now seen how cheap it is to make a book. So you wonder where the rest of it goes. A lot of it, of course, belongs to the book shops, and I think we should keep it that way. But making this book myself and seeing how you can actually donate still lots of money to the food bank and actually sell it through just Instagram and websites opened my eyes in, how the world of book production is changing and book selling is changing. And I think that needs definitely a lot more thought. I really would like to continue supporting the bookshops, but I think something in the system needs to change, especially authors and their royalties. But that's maybe a different subject for another time. So if there's, I don't know if you're able to ask any questions. I think you're not. But if you have, you could just send me an email.
There are questions.
Yes.
The big question is if it's also going to be translated in English. And my answer for you would be to them, make your own book. Because I think your lecture is as much about the book as about how to make a book and why you should make your own books. And I think that is so incredibly welcome for our audiences to incite us, I think, to make our own books and, go it alone. Did you mention, another question, did you mention what you did for the World Bank, for the food bank?
Yes, maybe too quickly, but we decided to donate $2.50 of every book to the food bank. And the book in bookshops, it costs 15 euros. And in the pre-sale, we offered it for 10 euros. So actually, we thought that it was going to be a completely non-profit book because, we also had to pay our tax. But since we actually sold so many copies, to our big surprise, it was actually a profitable book. But so $2.50 of each copy. So we've now already donated 40,000 euros to the food bank.
But that's crazy. That's a very big amount.
Yeah, it is. They're very happy too. So, and it's great to see, but it's also crazy. It's like I said, it opens your eyes of, where the money normally goes. It definitely does go to the authors. So that's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, what I really loved in one of the recipes is to use all the rest pasta, because I always throw them away. And then I say,
yes.
Oh, I can make pasta because I don't have any. And now I learned that you can just cook them one after the other, the longest, and you add, the shorter and the shorter, and then you have a meal with a collage of pasta. That's an amazing idea, I think.
Well, yeah, that's the basic of crisis cooking is just not to throw anything away and to substitute one thing with the other. So that's what we try to learn a lot from. So there's a lot of recipes with old bread in it, but we also try to, tell the readers in the text that if there's a sauce with, I don't know, bell peppers and you don't have any, it's really okay to just substitute them for any vegetable leftovers in your fridge. So because that's the whole idea, just to cook with whatever you have. And the same with the book, just make the book with whatever you have.
Yeah,
it's actually the limitations in cooking and in bookmaking that make that boost your creativity, because when you have all the budget in the world for cooking and for bookmaking, it's gonna be, you're gonna make it harder because you get to choose everything, and that's impossible. And when you just limit yourself to things you have, even when you go into your fridge right now and you cook a 3-course meal, it will be better than any meal you cook from a cookbook.
It's fantastic. What is the book you are working on now? Can you lift the veil on what is happening?
Yeah, I'm working right now on a book called Etiquette, and it's about the best way to eat classics. So it's not really about table manners. It's more about, how to improve the taste. So for example, oysters are served very often on ice, which is really nonsense because they get too cold and you kill the flavor. So really, from 100 or 101 things, I sorted out the best way to eat them.
Great.
And this I will also self-publish with the same printer, of course. And I will also start selling it on Instagram, I think next week. And I'm still sorting out, the best way to collaborate with bookshops, because I do that for CRISISKOKEN as well. But there's very few bookshops I work with, because it's very hard to, distribute the book yourself. Yeah. So I'm still thinking about solutions for that.
Right. Well, Mara,
but there's no way back. Once you self-publish, it's really hard to to go back, because now I just get to do what I want and break with all the rules of publishing. I think for the past 12 books I've made, I had always big arguments with the publishers because I never wanted a photograph in front on the cover of my books, and they always told me you have to have a food photo in front of a cookbook, because if you don't put a food photo in front of your cookbook, you won't sell it. So now I get to make a book without a food photo on it, and I sold more books than all of my others. So it's fun to break with the rules and to completely ignore all the old-fashioned rules and do your own thing.
It's super nice. Thank you so much to give us this time and this talk to sort of give this as an incentive to the whole world to create books. It's very wonderful. And the book itself is amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you.